What's up, y'all? I want to show you something that's pretty quick. Okay? This is pretty quick. It's not going to take up a lot of your lunchtime, dinner time, or breakfast time, or whatever time you're hearing this. Just read. Okay? Let's see who partook of flesh and blood. This will answer your questions. Hebrews 2:14. Inasmuch as the children have partaken of flesh and blood, he himself likewise shared in the same, that through death he might destroy him who had the power of death, the devil. That is the devil, right? Okay, so the one that partook of flesh and blood is the same one that used death to destroy him who had the power of death, which is the devil, correct? So we got the same one there, right? So there's someone that used death for the purpose of partaking of flesh and blood. He partook of flesh and blood for the purpose of using death to destroy him who had the power of death, and that is the devil. So the same one that used death to destroy him who had the power of death, that is also the same one who partook of flesh and blood. Now, let's go into the book of Colossians and compare with the book of Hebrews 2:14. All right, let's go to Colossians chapter 1 and see who used death to destroy him who had the power of death. And that will tell you whether a divine spirit son called God the Son partook of flesh and blood, or if it was literally the Father. All right. Colossians 1:19. For it pleased the Father, talking about the Father, right? And it says Father, and I didn't put that there, right? For it pleased the Father that in him all the fullness should dwell. We know that the him is the Son, and that the Father was pleased that in the Son all the fullness should dwell. Verse 20, and by him to reconcile all things to himself by him. The Father's the one that did it by him. The Son's not the one that did it. The Father's the one that did it, and the Father did it by him. See, Son's who he did it by, but the one who actually did the reconciling is the Father. So the Father did it by the Son. Whether things in earth or things in heaven, having made peace through the blood of his cross, the Father made peace through the blood of the Son's cross. Watch what verse 21 says. And you who were once alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now he, talking about the Father, has reconciled. Do you see it? So the Father is the one that did the reconciling. He did it by the Son. And watch what he says here in verse 22. Here's how. In the body of his flesh through death. Again, we read that in Hebrews 2:14, the same one that did it through death is the same one that partook of flesh and blood, that he could use death in order to reconcile, right? To destroy him that had the power of death. Just compare this with Hebrews 2:14. You see right here, the Father's the one that used death in order to reconcile us to himself. So the Father is the God that was in Christ, reconciling the world to himself. There's no other. Is that clear or what? Is that clear or what? Verse 22 again. In the body of the Father's flesh through death. It's talking about the Father's flesh. So the Father had flesh. He made flesh. He partook of flesh and blood. So this is evidence that he created a body for himself. This is clear. In the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and blameless and above reproach in his own sight. So his sight. Do you see? So the Father partook of flesh and blood. It's not a divine Son that did that. It's the Father. Again, the same one that partook of flesh and blood is the same one that used death to destroy him that had the power of death. And we see right here, it's the Father that's using death, according to verse 22, in the body of his flesh through death. In the body of his flesh through death. In the body of his flesh, the Father's flesh, the one you was alienated from, the God you fell from, that God had a body. And that body was the Son. That's the body of the Father's flesh. It's not the Son's flesh. It's the Father's body of flesh. The Son is who the Father was in. The Son's not the Spirit. The Son's the body of the Father's flesh. The Father's the Spirit. Do you see? You can't say a divine Son was within the Son. If that was the case, then that's who would be reconciling us to the Father. And you can't say that he lost his divine prerogatives to indwell flesh. That would mess your view up even more, because then you're saying one God person could dwell in the flesh and not lose his divine prerogatives, but there's another God person that could dwell in flesh and he loses his divinity. That makes even worse of a mess, because now you got one that's superior and one that's inferior. No, if there was a God the Son that was in the flesh, then he would be able to maintain his divinity while being in the flesh. Just like the Father maintained his divinity. He didn't lose being God, yet he was in the flesh. Do you see? How about this? The one that partook of flesh and blood is the same one that used death to destroy him who had the power of death, that is the devil. And who we see that is the Father. So the Father partook of flesh and blood, is calling the Son the body of his flesh, which shows that the Son consists of the body only, not a combination of spirit and body. Otherwise, it would be a divine Son in him doing the work. But no, we find it's just the Father. So there you have it, y'all. One God, the Father, within the Son. And that's who's working. That's who used death. So that's the purpose of creating the body. He created the body to use death. He partook of flesh and blood to use death, because God can't die. So God created a body that could die, which is the Son, who was put to death. And that's the Son that the Father was in. He didn't indwell a spirit, son. He indwell a body. So there you have it, y'all. Peace.